Welcome, everybody, to another Ham Radio Perspectives. I'm Quinn, K8QS.
And I'm Tom, W89TDD.
And our special guest is Gerard, KE7CF. Gerard, remind me where you're located again.
I am in Beaverton, Oregon, and that's just west of Portland.
Right, Beaverton, Oregon, and that's pronounced Oregon like a pistol. Oregon, not Oregon.
Right, exactly, not Oregon.
Not Oregon. Yeah,
right.
so I talked to you about 2 years ago on HF, Gerard, and you told me that you had this tribander, Mosley, I think tribander, mounted on a tree. And then I went to your QRZ page and I saw a picture of this, and I thought, this is impossible. This is called photoshopping. He's not really on a beam that's mounted on a tree. Can't be. But you promised me it was, and I said, okay, we're going to do a video on this. And 2 years later, I'm getting back to you. I mean, it's been COVID and everything else, but we're back to it. So everybody out there, Ham Radio Perspectives is like, we're willing to go anywhere to get the true story, not the fake news, but the true story. And this is a true story of how to mount your beam on a tree. We're not kidding. In fact, if you look real closely at that first image, you see right there, look at that. Wow, wow, wow. It's that right on top of the tree. It may look like it's behind the tree, but it's not. So take a look at this. Here's another picture that you can see that beam back there. It's fairly high. This is a Google shot from the Google Earth, where you use that satellite and you look down on it. I just want to make sure everybody understands up front that we're not joking. This is not an April Fool's video or anything. And there you can see, if you look closely, the beam on top of that tree. Don't give away the story yet, Gerard, but how high is that beam off the ground?
I believe it's right around 60 feet.
60 feet up, mounted on top of the tree. And you can see the other tree in the front yard there that's higher, that hasn't been chopped off. And there is another look at it. This is current. Gerard just sent me this photo recently. And so you can see that beam up there, 60 some feet over that tree. Here's another one that he sent. A little hard to see the tribander because it's up there quite a ways. And this, Tom, why don't you jump in?
Okay, well, Gerard got a very nice job on that. I think every ham that's looked at a utility pole, cell tower, or elevated street lamp posts has been curious about how do I get my antenna up that high? And so my question to you is, what idea possessed you to put it on top of a tree? I know that you're in Oregon, so you must have a lot of tall trees there, but it seems like a rather prodigious undertaking to get it up into a tree. So, what gave you the idea?
Okay, well, I couldn't afford a tower at the time, and I think there are tower restrictions here in the area because I don't see many or any, to tell you the truth. But I thought, I got this Douglas fir tree right here, and I started thinking about how I'm going to pull this off. So one day I went up there with a little chainsaw, cut the top of the tree off, and then cut the foliage back. And then I mounted an 1.5-inch pipe to the trunk of the tree and tried to get it as plumb as I could. And I took the rotor up there and mounted it and ran all the cable control and the coax. And if you look closely, you can see a 17-meter antenna above the Mosley beam there. So that's my 17-meter antenna, and that thing works really good as a rotatable dipole. So anyway, I thought about this, and I had two friends, and I'm into fishing. So I have two big surf poles, and I'm talking 11-foot long pole, pretty stout, with 40-pound monofilament line and open face reels. So after I had all the prep work done, I had these friends of mine come over, and I had everything laid out on the ground, and we tied the front of the Mosley beam towards about maybe 5 feet out from the center on each side, tied the fishing line on there and laid that out on the ground. And then I went up to the tree, threw a rope down, and they tied it onto the back element of the Mosley beam. And I proceeded to pull it up by hand. I didn't have any pulleys. It weighs about 70 pounds, I believe. So I pulled it up there, and once I got a hold of it, after taking a little bit of a rest, I nestled it up there and sat it on the top of the tree for a second. And then I got in position, and I muscled it up and into the rotor and set it in there, and had my pointer indicator for my rotator control pointed east. And that's the way I set it up. I set it up pointing east, and it all worked out pretty good. I was 40 years old when I did this. I'm 68 now. It does require maintenance. If you don't get up there and trim the foliage away from growing up through the center of the antenna, you're going to have issues. But up until about 3-4 years ago, I was going up there every year with a pole saw and clipping stuff out of the way. So it's a young man's deal. It's just what worked out. I get a lot of comments about it, and but you guys are the first ones to actually take the bull by the horns and see what I managed to pull off. And if you look closely, you see a block on the trunk of the tree there. That is my pulley that I use to pull up my G5 RV inverted V antenna. So that is how I get on 40 and 80 meters. So basically, it took about 2.5 hours after I had everything prepped to get it up there and put it in position. So anyway, I was younger and more of a young buck back then, but I'm glad I did it, and so far so good. The only thing I've had to do is replace the coax, and I'm still capable of going up there and doing that, but I had to replace the coax once, and after I did that, everything was copacetic. That is a used 3-element beam there after I rebuilt it I bought from somebody off of the Want ads well before Craigslist, and I bought that and refurbished it and put it up. So that's pretty much my story. Over.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Gerard, so the 1.5-inch pipe is actually what's supporting the rotor and the antenna then, and you're using the tree to support the 1.5-inch pipe.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see the whole pipe there in that picture.
Right. Okay. Now that when you mentioned it, then it dawned on me that it was not the sun reflecting off the side of the tree, but it was actually a piece of pipe. So that's very ingenious. So as long as the tree is standing, it's going to hold your pipe up.
Yeah, I use like 4-inch, 1.5 lag screws. There's 4 of them bolted to that tree. So,
okay, very good job.
And you would think that this would have to be hardwood to keep it up there, but this is not a hardwood tree, is it?
No, it's Douglas fir. They bleed a lot, so when you screw something into the tree, the sap comes out, and if you can't see it in the picture, but where it's bolted in there, sap has run out there, and it's kind of encased to the side of the tree now. So the top of the tree, you see a little white thing on top there. That was a milk jug to start with, to keep the top of the tree from weathering so much. That didn't work out so well. So now what I did was I Gorilla taped the whole thing with Gorilla tape, and it's rotted a little bit, but the main part of the tree is in fine shape, but the top part has weathered in the last 20 years. Okay.
Yeah, but man, that's a used antenna that you put up there. You refurbished it, but
Yep.
yeah, so it's lasted well. It's a Mosley, right?
Yeah, they're tough.
Yeah. And what kind of rotor is it?
It's a CDE Ham 4. Yeah, it's a CDE Ham 4 rotor.
Okay, and you've never had to service that either.
No, so far so good. Uh, yeah, that's if that ever goes out, I guess I could take the antenna out of the rotor and set it there in the crotch of the tree and take the rotor down and reservice or service it or whatever I have to do. Hopefully that never happens, but so far so good.
And what about movement of the tree in the wind?
Uh, It does move around. It's taken some pretty hellacious winds over the years and some ice. And it's so far so good. Them Mosleys are one tough antenna. They're built to a higher standard than a lot of these antennas are.
Did any neighbors say anything to you or complain to the city to come out and take a look or something?
No, I've never heard a word. I do get everybody knows I'm a ham operator in my area here, and I'm active on a lot of the local nets, so people know me pretty well. And yeah, it is what it is, and my neighbors are pretty good about it.
It's an intriguing thing that you said that there may be tower restrictions, but there are not tree restrictions, right?
Well, that's what I thought, and I've never heard a word from the city about it. So it's all good, and it's been there a long time.
Yeah,
Well, I guarantee you that the root system on that tree is far superior to any chunk of concrete you could bury in the ground with have guy wires on.
Yeah, that's true. The tree next to it, though, the big one next to it, that one there, that's well over 100 feet tall. And when that wind blows, being you guys ain't familiar with what happens around here, a lot of trees come down here in the wintertime.
Yeah.
We have big snow and wind here, and that one scares me. I've had it trimmed out, and I've had an arborist out, and he says it's a healthy tree. So, but that one is subject to blowing over, if you ask me.
Yeah. Here's a shot again from a little distance. I want to go back here so people can see that these are the shots that you sent me the other day. And actually, you cannot see that antenna on top of the tree very well from the street. In fact, you told me you had trouble getting pictures, partly because you had to wait for some sun.
All right.
But here's the other one you sent. So in some sense, this thing being on top of the other tree, which is in front of it for your front yard, it makes it very difficult to see. My guess is that hardly anybody walking down the street or driving down the street is going to see that beam. What do you think, Gerard?
Well, I know it's there. People don't tend to look up, people just don't tend to look up, or they see that and they probably think it's a TV antenna. Who knows, People
Right.
aren't too wise to what amateur radio really is.
Yeah, and you don't get a sense when it's that high too as to how big the antenna itself actually is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, boy, you are a trooper. This has been so much fun. Now we have to ask you if anyone in all of your being on the air, and obviously you're on the air a lot, and because I ran across you too, I think on 17, I'm not sure, but has anybody ever decided to go ahead and do what you've done here?
Not that I'm aware of. Nobody's ever contacted me like you guys have about this. I've had local people once in a while at a ham fest, and they'll know me and they'll ask me how that's working out, and I'll say so far so good.
So,
Yeah.
in that same vein, what advice would you give to others that would try to attempt something like that, Gerard?
Well, the only way I seem to be able to pull that off was having two guys on big surf poles because the only way you're going to pull it up is to keep it away from the tree until you clear the foliage that's sticking out. Otherwise, you don't have a prayer to get it up there. And that's one way that I overcame that obstacle.
Yeah, another thing that I think about now that you mentioned is use a good beam. Don't use one that's poorly constructed that you're going to have to go up there and service, and also use a quality rotor, because the servicing of this, if you have trouble and have to take it down and put it back up or replace it, is a bear.
Yeah, I don't
And
want
and along the same lines, I would suggest running hardline up to at least the rotor.
Well, that's a good idea. And if I got to replace my coax again, I think I'm going to do it with LMR 400 to flex stuff. So
Right.
it's only probably 80 feet from the feed point on the antenna to where it plugs into my radio. So
Yeah.
But that's still a lengthy trip going up there to replace it. How often do you have to How often did you have to replace it? Have you only replaced it once in 20 years?
yeah, that's so far so good. My SWR right now is flat as can be. So before, when I noticed I had issues, the coax was compromised. So
Yeah.
once I replaced that, it made all the difference in the world.
Wow, what a story. I'm telling you, Gerard, this is great. We're going to put this up, and you're going to get all kinds of email from people saying, hey, I want to do that too. And then it'll come down to about 0.001% of them having the actual courage to do it.
Right.
All right. Hey,
Okay.
anything else you want to add, Gerard?
Not really. Just thanks you guys for taking an interest. I'm happy to participate.
We're delighted. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for watching Ham Radio Perspectives. Again, you've been talking here with Gerard, KE7CF, or we've been talking with him. You can get his email on QRZ or whatever. Fire him a note if you're interested in this amazing project. And I hope many of you will post notes down below, not just asking questions about this or that, but also saying, Gerard, you are a hero in the ham community who's figured out how to get around the HOA restrictions by not using a tower, but using a Douglas fir. Chop, mount, pull it up. Wow, what a great story. Thanks so much, buddy. 73 to you.
Okay.
Thanks, Gerard.
You bet. Nice to meet you guys. Hope to catch you on the air.